job if my boss knew she'd fire me. That's fine, the New York Times would beg to hire me. Till then I'd log alone. Blah, 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 blah.
Americans, for their part, really haven't said a whole lot about what we're planning on doing here. There's an article in today's papers by Obama calling on the world to unite behind even more massive stimulus packages. And this has been sort of the American initiative so far, is talk about the value of stimulus spending and encouraging everyone else to double down on whatever stimulus packages they've passed already. The Chinese, for their part, are coming out with a let's restructure the IMF to give us more power initiative, and making some of their usual vague, ill-defined remarks about replacing the American dollar with a currency to be created by the IMF. The latter part is not going to go anywhere, but it's indicative of their political priorities approaching the G20 summit. As for that matter, the European proposals are indicative of their political priorities.
I think it's important as we go through this process of what I call the government spending spree, to really be out there on the record for those of us who didn't support this first bailout, because that led to where we are today, which is just a really unfathomable amount of money that's being spent by this government. I mean, it's entirely reckless. And essentially, the first bailout is what opened the door to all of this to happen. You guys know the rest of the story, those packages and crazy omnibus bills, and now a budget that even the CBO forecast that came out on Friday is a rosy picture of it. Because they're still looking at GDP growth rates that I think are not going to be achieved. So you're looking at, I said this in front of Ways and Means Committee a couple weeks ago when Geithner was there, but if we're just slightly off on the GDP growth numbers, you're looking at doubling. Some people say that Obama's budget's going to double the total debt number. It's going to surpass the total debt number from all the other presidents combined in 10 years. I mean, it's going to happen in 4 or 5 years. That's the way this is going, the way this economy is going. Well, what I really wanted to do is outline, I think, the serious problems that we have in this during these tough economic times. I think the Congress is making it worse. In a nutshell, the Congress is controlled by liberal Californians. And essentially what you see in California is what you're going to have in Washington, D.C. if someone doesn't stand up and stop this nonsense. And what you have in California is a very dangerous situation where the government is essentially insolvent. There's no way that they're going to be able to come out of this hole without serious reforms. And so I outlined some, I think, fundamental reforms that California has to undertake, which is really a bellwether for the entire country in terms of what has to happen, I think, politically. Because without action, if you continue to have inaction, or even worse yet, things like this new Obama budget, this energy tax that they're talking about putting on, socialized medicine, you're going to end up with exactly what you have in California, which is a complete meltdown. Well, this is my first time, but as I said during the meeting, I think that the bloggers have an important role to play, especially in getting accurate information out on the web. I think one of the challenges we have right now is there's so many false stories that float out there in the blogosphere, and I think the blogs that begin to get factual information out there, the first ones to do that, to where it becomes a reliable source of information, are going to be the ones that I think really provide a service to the American people. And that's going to be, and I think conservative bloggers are going to be more apt to tell the truth than the people that just make things up. Well, I think there's a lot of denial going on. I mean, when I talk like this, I mean, it's a dire situation. When I say, California is essentially, for all intents and purposes, insolvent. It's very serious, but I don't think people want to believe it, including the highest, levels of leadership in the state, including the governor, including the Speaker of the House, including all the folks that quite frankly, the U.S. senators, I mean, they should be providing real leadership. But when you can't even provide water to people that live in California, you know your government's in serious trouble.